relaxation and for eating pizza. I got a double IPA from Ascension Brewing in Novi, and I got Robert Plant and Zeppelin on the stereo. So make of that what you will. We're doing our second batch. Today we're going to be doing they call it a Barkeep's Friend. It is a traditional English session ale, which means it's a lower alcohol content. The guy at the store said it was a little more malty. I've got my friend Brandon over here. I'll probably get in a little bit. But we're going to see, we learned a little bit from our first brew. We learned from our mistakes. I think somewhere along the line the sanitation broke up, so it turned a little sour at the end. Not too badly, but you know, just enough to where you can taste it. So we're going to do this. I've got my own Absol Pure water because our water here is terrible. And then I've got a new old brew kettle. I like to call it my chili pot because it comes in real handy at family reunions. So let's get this open and then we'll start. And for those of you that have never actually dealt with a kit, or you're beginning just like I am, you're interested to see what comes with. We've got our pure malt extract. You're also going to get some sort of a sugar, corn sugar in this instance. What else we got? Okay, we've got our dry malt extract. You're also going to get your different hops, normally pellets because they'll dissolve right in. So right now for aroma and for flavor. Two different styles. You've also got the barley and the grain. You're going to come with lids. You need to supply your own bottles, but I'll tell you what I've found for bottles is that you have a lot of friends that drink a lot of beer, so just ask them for all their bottles. You're going to have to get off the labeling and whatnot, but they have to be pop tops. Make sure they're not twist tops, so no Miller Lite fans, okay? We don't need that. Okay, we have a little bit of our yeast. More sugar. I believe one of them is for bottling. We're going to find out later. One's for bottling and one's for fermentation. And then, we have our bittering hops. So there are actually 3 different types of hops in there. We have our cheesecloth, or I call it cheesecloth. Basically, it works as a tea bag for steeping. And then you're going to have your instructions. And that's really it. And then another little bit of the instructions as well. So let's get to it. They ask for 3 gallons. They're getting 2.5 because that's all that comes in this thing. I don't know. Maybe I'll put it in 3. We'll see. This pot's a lot bigger than I thought. I don't like the taste of my water, as I stated, so I'm going with Absol Pure. Oh, look. We'll go with this little guy. Ice Mountain. That's another difference. I have gas now. This thing's going to be rocking. Last time you saw me, I had electric. Let it come. Instruction number 2. Pour 3 gallons of clean water, which we did, into a stainless steel pot. Included in your recipe, pour the crushed grains into the cloth bag, tie the end of the knot, close it, put the crushed grains into the pot of water and heat to 150 degrees and hold for 20 minutes. Do not boil. Carefully remove the grain bag and allow it to drain into brew pot without squeezing. Discard the grain-filled bag, which, as you know now, I'm composting, so that's going to go right into the composter, which is eventually going to probably feed the hops that are going to join the beer at some point. So it's a whole circle of life. What do you know? And we're going to pour them in. Awesome. We've got about 4 minutes left until we have to take out the spent grains. So in that time, I want to kind of tell you, as a beginning brewer myself, and I was all confused. It's like when you're first learning to drive a car, and all you're doing is you're just like gripping the wheel, and you're like, no, nothing, no, don't even distract me. Well, after a while, it just becomes like a second nature, and things start making sense, okay? So what I wish I knew about the beer and how simple it is of a process, this is essentially it. In order to be beer, it has to have 4 ingredients. Barley, water, hops, and yeast. That's it. So Anything else on top of that, whether it's fruit, you can add different types of hops, you can add different types of yeast, different fermenting periods. This is what really changes the beer. Now, again, this is just from my beginning perspective. I'm sure people at my brew club, they could expound upon this a lot more. But all you're looking at for you beginners out there is this. You're making what is essentially a tea. You're taking the malt extract, you're taking the hops, you're taking the barley, and you're making a spiced tea, as it were. Okay, so now you have this, and that's called your wort. So whenever you hear wort, just think of tea, because that's how I had to do it. Okay, so then after you do this tea and you've cooled it down, you put it in your sanitized fermenting bucket, and then you add the yeast. The yeast is going to go into effect. It's going to eat up the sugars that are inside that wort now, okay? And it's going to expel two things. One is the alcohol, and the other one is carbon dioxide. Now again, some scientist and somebody with a lot more experience than me can probably break this down a lot more, but essentially that's what it is. The sugar turns into alcohol, and the yeast is what does that. So if you can think of it that way, maybe this whole brew process will be easier for you. I wish somebody would have told me and actually broken that down, so I'm breaking it down for you. My timer's about ready to go off, so once that goes off, we're going to take out the spent grains. Again, do not squeeze it. Just kind of let it drip down into it, and then after that, throw it out or compost it like I'm going to. And there it is. Let's get to it. After you've pulled that out, crank up the heat and make it boil. Meet Brandon, beer newbie. We're going to try this out. He had a question. What does this taste like after the grains have steeped? Well, we might as well try it. Bring it over. There's that. And honestly, I have no idea what it tastes like, so we're going to try it out. Tastes like what?
Tea.
Tastes like tea. Tastes like grain. It's really not offensive. It's actually nice and smooth. You might have it with a piece of toast and a scone.
Not bad.
Not bad. So, let's go on to the malt extract. We're boiling. Turn it off. Liquid malt extract, dry malt extract. Let's watch it. Now to get all of this out, put a little bit of hot water inside this, and then swish it around and the rest will come out. Okay. So you managed that okay? No trouble? Nothing like that? Okay, good. Turn it back on, return to a boil. No boil over. Remember, it's starting to boil, so watch out. Because if it happens to you, I'm not coming over and cleaning it up. Next, add the bittering hops. Mother Earth stank. So stir for 45 minutes. Another warning not to boil over. And then after that, we'll come back and talk. Be right with you. Now it's tough to see in this shot, but there's a lot of movement and the water's barely churning. It's just a nice, gentle, almost to a boil, like a nice, peaceful day at the spa. And that's how I want it. I've got about 10 minutes left. We're going to see how it goes, and then after that, we're going to add the flavoring hops. 45 minutes is up. Add the finishing hops. In this case, it's both the aroma and the flavor hops. The Styrian, Celia, I'm going to get mocked for mispronouncing that, and Golding. No way I can mispronounce that one. Okay. Then it says 15 minutes. Do I boil or not? Boil for an additional 15 minutes for a grand total of 1 hour, 60 minutes. Timer went off. We boiled for a total of 1 hour. We're done with all the additions, all the hops, all the malt. So now what we have to do is get it cooled down to 75 degrees. So I just today bought the new copper, it's a copper cooling tube. So essentially we have to sanitize it very well, because now anything we do with this wort, we really have to keep sanitized, or else we're going to get a funky beer, kind of like what I got with my first batch. Who are we kidding? It did happen. It wasn't kind of. It happened in my first batch. So it's been in sanitizer, and then we're going to then drop it into this. So essentially what will happen is, you know what? Let's just take it downstairs and I'll show you. I got it in my laundry tub because it has a good hose connection. So let's go check that out. Welcome to the basement. This is where my wife hangs out, and she does the laundry while I'm upstairs cooking. We have a very progressive marriage, and yet it's slightly still 1950s. So, we got this copper tube. It's all, oh my gosh. It's emptying itself. All right, see this? It's in sanitizer. The cold water goes in one side, cools down there, comes out the other side. So, this is completely sanitized. We're now going to hook it up, and we're going to cool down the wort to 75 degrees. That splattered. All right, let's try it now. Still splattered. Gotta tighten it, tighten it. There we go. Modern science. I'm going to go get my candy thermometer. I'm going to sterilize it. I learned this little technique. They said get a bucket, fill it with sanitizer. It'll actually last you several brews until it gets cloudy. So everything, every tool, the spoon, the thermometer, the caps when we finally do cap it, the bottles, everything has to be sanitized. I have Star San. Now they said you can just use iodine, I think it was. Don't quote me, but I have Star San. They said it's more expensive, but it does the trick right. And really, when it's more expensive, it's like $5 instead of $1. I don't know, something like that. So I'm going to go get the candy thermometer. We're going to test this until it gets to 75 degrees. Don't you go anywhere. I'll be right back. Told you I'd be back. Nice candy thermometer. Shoot, I lied. It only goes down to 100. I got to get out my digital guy. Let me go get it. This is a lot quicker than last time. Last time, if you remember, what I had was the wort pot inside my kitchen sink with ice water around it, and I'm vigorously stirring it so that it gets down to the temperature. This has been going for about 5-6 minutes, and it's already gotten down to below 100 degrees. I'm slightly stirring it. Whether or not I should be, I don't know. But I did sanitize the stir, I sanitized the copper, so by all measures I should be good, but you never know with this. It is a fickle mistress, it seems, this homebrewing thing. So we're going to keep going. Let's take another temp. And we are at 90, 89 and a point something high. So we're going to round it up to 90. I'm going to keep doing this. I'll alert you when it's down to 75. I'll get right back at you. We're down to 75. So now we're going to take the cooled wort. It says to either pour or siphon the water into a sanitized 6.5 gallon fermentation bucket, which we have down here. Once we're done with that, we're going to add the extra 2.5 gallons that we didn't add at the beginning, because remember, we only started with 2.5 gallons in order to make our tea, which is our wort. And then what we're going to do is, to get it up to that 5 gallons, we're going to add the other 2.5 gallons. So you can do the math on that one. So I'm going to do that, and then I'll be right back with you. 2.5 gallons in here. We're going to add in the other one. And scene. Okay. Next, they say to take the original gravity with a hydrometer. Now, basically, to break it down, how I read it is the gravity is going to be, if it's at 1, that is exactly how dense your, well, it's the exact same density as water. If you go 1.05, it is 5% denser than water. If it's 0.95, it's 5% less dense than water. So I'm going to go read a little more, figure out what that means, and then get back to you at the end of this clip, because to me, honestly, that means absolutely nothing. But somehow that has to deal with alcohol in the beer, I believe. Again, I'll clarify at the end. The little stick is telling me how thick it is. Right now, it's between the orange and the white. It's quite hard to see because of the foam, but there you go. So 1.03. Okay, I get it. Okay, so I'm going to come back to you with this one, but right now it's bobbing up and down at 1.03, because if you notice right up top here, let me get you in focus here. All right, it says 0.990. In the blue, it's 1.0, and then if you keep going, and it was right between the orange and that, so it's technically at 1.03. Okay, I'm going to need to really explain this to you, because I need to really explain it to myself, so we'll be back. Alright, I'm trying to get the best light for viewing, and apparently that has to look at my utility room, but it really adds atmosphere, doesn't it? Now, I'm reading the label that came with my hydrometer, so, again, this is a video for beginners, because we're all learning together, remember? Okay, example number 1. If the initial SPGR, son of a gun, okay, so if the initial reading is 1.03, that means that it then correlates to a alcohol percentage over here. So that we're looking at a 6, 7.5? 7.5. So we're looking at 7.5, okay? There's another little thing over here. I wish you could see this. So let's see. Alright, so you can kind of see there's the 30, and then we're moving over, and you see a 5 and a 10, okay? So right in between that is a 7.5. Now, the final reading, basically I have to take this at the end to see where it ends up. Now, what it's going to happen is it's actually going to sink a little more, and when it sinks more, that means the numbers on here are actually going to go down. So 1 is up here, and the further it goes down, you go down to 0.990. So I ended up at 1.03, then it's going to sink down to 1, and then it's going to go down maybe 0.990. And then based on these calculations, you know, then you figure out alcohol volume. So this is good. So in order for me to do what I just did, this is essentially going to tell me alcohol volume. That still doesn't really explain why it gets less dense. I'll figure that out for you as well. One moment. Oh, it's me from the basement again. I figured out the answer to the gravity and how it relates to alcohol content, and it actually has to deal with the sugar content and ethanol content. Now, from Wikipedia. The density of a wort is largely dependent on the sugar content of the wort. During alcohol fermentation, yeast converts sugars into carbon dioxide and alcohol. The decline in the sugar content and the presence of ethanol, which is appreciably less dense than water, drop the density of the wort. So there you have it. Basically, when you start out, there's a lot of sugar in there, but as the yeast converts the sugar into alcohol, or ethanol, ethanol is a lot less dense than water, and the sugar is leaving, so that's why the density goes down. And that is how we'll figure out how much alcohol we have, is by starting out with the original gravity, subtracting the final gravity, and there we have it. No, wait. Yeah, we'll have it. So we'll do that in our next video. We've come this far. Let's keep going. The interrogation light is on top of me, so I'll tell you the truth. We have some yeast here. This is a ale yeast. I read somewhere it said Nottingham yeast, but maybe I was just seeing that it is GMO and gluten-free, so it can't be that bad. It said sprinkle on top. So we're going to sprinkle, 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 sprinkle. Sprinkle, sprinkle, sprinkle. All right, now that's going to be on top. Secure the lid on the fermenter with the airlock. I'm going to put some sanitizer into the airlock. Well, it says right here, approximately half filled with sanitizer. We're going to place the fermenter in a warm area to maintain a temperature of 67 to 72. You see, I'm in a basement, which, I mean, that's essentially what it was created for. Am I correct? Keep fermenter away from sunlight, fluorescent lights. Done. You should notice bubbling in the airlock within 24 hours. Bubbling will slow down significantly and then stop completely after 3 to 7 days. So, when bubbling has stopped, remove the lid, sanitize a hydrometer, and take the final gravity reading. So right now, remember, 1.03. So I'm going to come back to you, and then I'm going to ask you that same question in 3 to 7 days, and we're going to see if you remember that. And that will be the final gravity reading, abbreviated here as FG. So write down this number for future reference. If this reading matches, I'm not even going to read that now, it doesn't matter. Okay, so we're done for today. I'll get to the rest in the next video, but we're done. I'm going to sanitize the lid. We're going to put this on. We're going to put it in the basement away from light and fluorescent lights and sunlight. It's pretty much a vampire sans the garlic phobia. So thank you so much for watching today. It was a longer video, but I feel we learned something today, and isn't that all that's important? I hope you have a great rest of your weekend, and we'll talk to you soon. Keep exploring Michigan, please. It's a wonderful state, and we have a lot of things here. Other than that, I love you all. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll talk to you next time on Delishigan.